What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Billy Wayne back again with Legacy United, a Righteous Project Inc. podcast. So we got a new guest today, but I'm going to pass it to him and let him introduce himself real quick.
Hey, Billy, thanks for having me on. I definitely appreciate it. My name is Lawrence Meyers, father of three, soon to be four. Looking forward to that. 3 daughters. Hopefully a son. We'll find out next week, but as long as it's a healthy baby, we'll go with that.
Yes, sir.
Talent acquisition professional. I work in talent acquisition management. I'm a professional recruiter. Held many job titles leading up to this point in life as well too. So everywhere from a supervisor to multiple different companies I worked for. So currently in talent acquisition right now.
Cool. That's what's up, man. And I forgot to say it before we recorded. Congratulations on the fourth one. I got one upcoming too, man. Just keep myself busy. You know what I mean?
I didn't want to lose the race. It seems like there's a race to see how many we can get. So
it gets like that, man. Yep. And you guys know how it is. We invite people on here to share their stories, paths they've gone through to become the person they are today. It's all about sharing some inspiration and motivation for the audience as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass it back your way, man. You can start from the beginning, man, and let us know, your story, sir.
Yeah, sounds good. Man, I'll go way back, man, because I think a lot of us, a lot of people, as far as who we become in life, really starts at that early stage of life. That's the formidable years, right? So I'll go back to like childhood. So I was born in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. Grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So we'll go back to like, I want to say like 89. So I was like 4 years old. We'll go back there, and I think it's important because lots of things happened in my life that really made me the person who I am today, and I'll take none of it back. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. It just makes you who you are. Lots of learning experiences. So my childhood was not ideal, I would say. It was pretty hard, to say the least. So starting back in 89, 90, that's where issues started to happen. That's where, lived with my 2 brothers, my sister. So there's 4 kids. My mother, my father. We lived in a nice townhome in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then it went bad after that, is the best way I could put it, right? So what kind of led up to that was a lot of things. So you had drug use, right? That's a very commonality with alcohol use, drug use, abuse. And then my mom was not extremely, let's just say she wasn't faithful to my father as well too. So there's an element of that. And it all kind of spiraled out of control. Then we went from Bethlehem to Allentown. So you go from living in like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhome. I would say a decent childhood that I could remember in the early part. And then when I hit 5, you're living in it's just you, your 2 brothers, and your dad. And then we're living in like a shelter. Like, all right, this family gets this room, this family gets this room, this family gets that room over there. And then you're kind of thrown off like, wow, what happened to everything? You start questioning, was it something you did or, whatever the case may be. And that's where life was different. So I would say from 6 to 12 years old, there was like about a good 6 years there where it was just tough, man. It was really tough. So we lived in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and some of the struggles that we had to go through was just being hungry. Like something my kids don't know about, but man, when you're a kid and your stomach's hurting and you have no money and there's no food in the house, it really impacts you. So that was just like an everyday struggle figuring out how to eat. So a lot of times it would be, in the wintertime, it would be if I could go door to door shoveling people's sidewalks and stuff like that to get money. That would be one thing.
Right.
If I could stand in front of, it's not called King Soupers out there. It was called Food Lane back in the day. But standing outside grocery stores asking for change, that'll be one thing. Hell, stealing, going in there, doing that would be another option as well too. whatever you had to do. Like that's the one reason I love going to school, man. You got free lunch,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
right.
was a motivator to
Yep.
want to go, just because that would be the only meal I would eat that day. So that was tough, and it's not like my father didn't try. Like I said, he had a drug problem. So, and if any of us know someone who had a problem with drugs, specifically crack cocaine, which is so addicting,
Yeah,
it really
right.
changes who you are. Changes who you are, So
Yep.
he loved us. There's no doubt about that. But he was battling that at the same time. So therefore, food stamps don't work, because back then it wasn't like a card. It was the book.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep.
Ones are brown. I
Yeah,
think the
exactly. Yep.
pen's
Yep.
purple.
Exactly.
Um, that's drug money right there. You get drugs
Right.
there. So we rarely got to use those, because when those came in, we would try to hide them from him.
Okay.
You know, and he would just grab them. I remember one time, it's funny when you grow up like this, you kind of get a sense of humor. Me and my brothers were debating, like, hey man, where should we hide this at? Where should we hide these food stamps at? Like, hide them in the
Yep.
Bible, man. He'll feel
Oh
bad.
man. Yeah, yeah.
That didn't work, man. He still took them out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
man. Yep.
it was just one of those things where, yeah, during that time, it was bad. And then what really boiled over at that point is, we eventually left that shelter, and we went to an apartment in Allentown.
Okay.
Went from 2nd Street to 10th Street, which is a little nicer. It doesn't really matter. It's still both terrible, but it was a little nicer on 10th Street. I think my cousin had an apartment there, and we lived in the upstairs for a little bit, and then something happened to him, so we just kind of took over that apartment for a couple of years.
Okay.
But we came home from school. I remember coming home from school one day, and it was like, oh man, all of our stuff's on the sidewalk. I don't know if anyone ever had that experience where you walk home from school and you're just expecting to go upstairs, and and you see all your stuff out there. You're like, okay, so all of our stuff's out here,
right?
So I can't just go upstairs. No one's to be found. Like I said, my dad had his issues, so he's not like around. So I slept outside. That night.
Oh man.
Yeah, I slept outside that night. And I'm probably 11 years old. And then the next day, I ran into my brothers, and then ran into my dad. And I think at that point, anyone who's going through a drug problem, rock bottom, a lot of times we think rock bottom is when your bank account's cleared out or there's no food in the house. Nah, man, that ain't rock bottom, bro. Rock bottom is when you ain't got a home, you ain't got nothing to go to.
Oh man,
So you got there,
right?
So once you go to rock bottom like that, it's kind of like okay. So he kind of just got with the state of Pennsylvania, and then got some help, which inevitably put us in a foster home for a few years.
Gotcha. Yep.
Which led us to eventually moving out here to Colorado. So, looking back during that time of my life, it was one of those things where you have to, whatever you want, you kind of have to go get it yourself. I didn't have an option. I didn't have that option of mom doing something for me, dad doing something for me. When you're hungry, you got to go get it. You don't know how to count, you better learn if you want to add up this change to go buy some stuff from the store, right? So it was one of those things where it's like a nature versus nurture, if you will.
Gotcha.
I would say, right?
Yep. Okay.
A lot of times we feel like we're not able to do things, but when you're put in a position where you don't have much of a choice, you kind of forced to make those decisions right there, and yeah, so that was a lot of it. I mean, one part I left out as well too, and this was an eye-opening experience to me. A lot of times I missed my mom. That's a big part of it, because my mom wasn't there. It was just my dad. She was with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I really, I'm thinking mom will come save us type deal, right? You're not thinking in your head as a kid. You're just thinking that would be the case. As you get older, you kind of realize man, she had plenty of opportunities, those are, I would never do that to my kids right now. She knew what we were going through and chose not to do nothing about it. But there was one time when she did come by in Allentown to see us, and it's not funny, but she took me. So she actually took me, and technically I was kidnapped. I was kidnapped for about 10 minutes.
Whoa.
Right, so they took me, and I thought I had it bad in Allentown. Everything I explained to you happened.
Yeah.
I went to Eastern Pennsylvania. It was even worse.
Dang,
right?
Okay.
And there's some things I won't go too much into, but let's just say they were doing my dad had his problems, but he never did anything in front of us, right?
Yeah.
She would do things in front of me. So as a
Mm.
kid, seeing actions done in front of you that you should
Yep.
not see as a child did something
Has
to
an
me as well,
impact, man.
too, as
Yeah.
far as like,
Right.
man, this is wrong. Like, so the person who I've been kind of missing, thinking they could save me, is worse. Like, this is worse.
Okay.
You know, and
Right.
then eventually, I think it was like about 10 months living in that. And same thing, it's not like I lived anywhere else. That was a shelter as well. It was like a one-room shelter, just me, her, and her boyfriend, who's technically my biological father, but that's another story for another day. We'll
Yeah.
get into
Yeah.
that.
For sure. Okay.
But I was in that situation, which was by far worse, away from my brothers. At least where I was with my brothers, I knew what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was for a little bit there. So I would say from age 8 to 9, that was like a whole another wrench I was kind of thrown into that
Yeah.
madness
Wow.
that happened
Yep.
right there. Then eventually, someone recognized what was going on, and they were able to take me out of that situation and bring me back to my brothers in Allentown, which where I wanted to be. Man, those are my brothers,
Okay.
my dad, and no matter how bad things were, I know there was an element of love that was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it felt good to go there. But yeah, kind of going back to the foster home part of it. My father got us into a foster home, so he can get his life back together. So I lived in Lenhartsville, Pennsylvania. It's kind of outside of Kutztown. It's
Yeah.
Amish territory. You take a kid from the city, you put him on the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh man. Okay.
This is like mid-90s, and
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't have like TV. He wasn't into TV. I lived on a rabbit farm, so I had to tend to animals. It was an extreme difference of where I lived.
Interesting. Yeah, man. Okay.
Taking care of rabbits, taking care of chickens, taking care of doves. Like going to the school was like, God, I think the bus was like K through 12. It was one of those rural type, areas like that. And,
it
was an odd experience. I don't really look back on it like negative like I used to when I was younger. Some people would say like you learned work ethic. I don't think I learned any work ethic there. If anything, the only thing I really learned is that no matter how bad you think you got it, people got it worse. Like I had it bad, but I was never sexually molested like some of those kids that lived in that foster home.
Wow,
I never had
man, gotcha.
Other things happen. So no matter how bad you think you have something, there's people who got it worse. And it's one of those things where I was like, okay, well, hopefully my dad could get us out of here and we could kind of be a family again. That was ideal. I always had that hope that he would do that because that was the plan. And luckily, one of my brothers got to stay with me throughout that experience. But it was an experience to say the least. Living in a foster home, living in a house with 6 other individuals that are all from shattered backgrounds and shattered homes.
Right.
Was definitely a unique experience, to say the least.
I bet.
Yeah, it definitely was. So, yeah, that's a little bit about that, man. And then I came to Colorado, 97. Took a one-way flight from Newark, New Jersey. My dad moved out here because, military. Got an uncle in the military who was stationed out here in Montbello.
Okay. Yeah, Montbello. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
My uncle was stationed out in Montbello. Well, he was stationed out here, but he lived in Montbello.
Yep.
And my dad came out here to kind of start a new life, to get away from everything on the East Coast where we grew up at. And in 7th grade, that's when I came out here. In 7th grade, I went to Aurora Hills Middle School. But we moved out here to Aurora, Colorado is where I moved to. And that's where things went different. We were happy. It was, we had a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment for 3 teenagers and my father.
Yep.
But hey, man, it felt like I was on top of the world. Just happy to be with my brothers, happy to be with my dad. And it was almost like getting to know him again because it wasn't the same father before. It was the same loving father minus the big drug problem, right? So really, really proud of him to get us out here. And that's where there's like the story changes at that point. So it went from the hardships I went through, but now it's like I was able to leverage that experience and bring it into my teenage years. So I've been working.
Yeah,
man, I've been on paper working since I was 14. I always wanted certain things. I wanted a car. I wanted a cell phone. I wanted that stuff. And I never relied on my father to do it. I don't think I was ever conditioned to be like that. So
right. Okay.
Yeah. 14 years old. I'm working at Virginia Court Elementary School that summer of 8th grade.
Wow.
Got some money, got my own back to school stuff. Freshman, sophomore year, I'm working at KFC.
Yeah. Okay.
Under the table past 7 p.m. because you can only work 4 to 7, and after 7 they pay you. You know, my manager was hooking me up. Bought my own car when I was 15 before I even knew how to drive. You know, it's a stick shift. I had no clue how to drive the thing, but saved up my money, got it in sophomore year. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, those early years of going through that really molded me to just, you know, take on responsibility, but at the same time not make excuses. A lot of times we can make excuses to why we're not able to do nothing. And I never really looked at life that way. I always looked at if you want something, just outwork somebody.
Right.
You know, you don't have to be smarter than nobody. You know, if you know, it helps if you could gain the intelligence, but what you really need is the determination and the heart. And if you do that and you put that together, you'll be able to accomplish a lot. And that's kind of where it stuck with me at that point, you know, and I kind of carried that on, you know, throughout my life to this point. You know, my father's no longer with us. He passed away like 4 years ago, but
oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks. Thank you. But I've really learned a lot from him. I saw somebody, you know, he was a positive role model. A lot of times you think those positive role models need to be like people who never make mistakes. That's not realistic. You know, I learned more from mistakes than I do from anything.
Exactly.
So to see him go through what he went through when I was a child, and to see him come out here and sleep, you know, when we lived in those apartments, let me kind of go back. When we first moved out here in Aurora, I went to Aurora Hills. So from 7th grade to like my junior year of high school at Gateway, what is that, 4 years? So for like 4 or 5 years, he slept on the couch and worked 2 jobs. He didn't have a bedroom.
Yeah.
Me and my one brother shared one room. My other brother had the other room, and he slept on the couch.
Yeah.
Worked 2 jobs. My senior year, he bought a house for $250,000, right? Like, he saved up his money.
Okay.
He was really diligent. He worked 2 jobs, saved up his money because he had a goal in mind. His goal was to own a house and get remarried, and he did eventually get remarried as well too.
Okay.
So I saw him come out here with nothing. You know, he came out here with absolutely nothing. And within 4 or 5 years, he was able to accomplish a lot of those goals right there. So when I see these kids always giving me excuses why they can't buy a car, man, it goes in one and the other. You just don't want to
right. Yep.
You know,
so I hear you. I agree.
That's what it is for me. But yeah, man, that's a little bit about it, man. I would say like kind of my upbringing and my work ethic. A lot comes from that. Remember I told you I bought my car, right? When I did that, dude, KFC wasn't hiring. They weren't hiring when I got that job. I made them hire me, bro. I remember I knew they hired at 14, 15 if you had a work permit from the school. So good. So I would get good grades, right? That was the start. I would just pay attention to school. And then I made sure I was able to get hired so I could get the work permit. I don't know how it is nowadays, but that's what it was then.
Yeah.
And I knew KFC hired at a young age because I looked into it and they do. So I went there every day. The first day I went there, they said they weren't hiring. I was like, cool. You know, I went there every day and just got bothering the management a little bit. I would like take the trays off the tables and I would like put them in the trash and bring them to the counter. Like I was working as if I was working there. I would show up there like an hour and a half every day at school. And then finally after like 2-3 weeks of doing that, I must have went in there on a hella busy day. And I was like, for real helping. I was. And the manager was like, man, I'm not going to get rid of you, are you? Am I? I was like, nah, man, I really want a job here. He's like, all right, man. That was my interview. I interviewed without even interviewing. I didn't know what I was doing.
Man.
Me showing up every day doing that was enough. Where he's like, all right, man, here you go. Go to orientation on Monday.
Ooh, man, crazy. Okay.
So I kind of like told them, you know, like, hey, man, you just got to hire me, man, because I see you hire some people here. People like a job. Bro, I want a job, man. I need a car. I want something.
Right.
My dad's busy working, man. Like, I ain't going to ask him for this. This is what I'm about to do. So y'all going to hire me because y'all the only ones around here that hire at this age. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what's crazy about that, man, is especially with the new generation, they're more picky, you know, like, oh nah, I'm not gonna work here because you don't pay enough or, you know, XYZ, and then they just quit, you know, quit every 2 weeks, man, you know, their jobs. And it's even I still believe it to this day, just like you were saying, man. You gotta get out there and grind out, man. You got to start, get it where you can, and then build from there. I mean, I think that's the most important thing a lot of kids are missing these days, man. So it's amazing to hear that that's how you got in and got your first gig, man. So man, that's
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah.
crazy.
It's funny. I'll even second at what you're saying. I know my nephew. He
Mm-hmm.
I be getting on him all the time.
Yeah.
Like you talking about like, man, I need this car and all this other stuff, and he ain't got
Yep.
one. And
Yep.
when I say nephew, don't think like don't picture like this 18. Picture a 26. I'm talking about a 26, a man. I'm talking about a 26-year-old man.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking
Right.
about, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I'm saying like,
Yep.
look, man, just work another job. Like you ain't got no kids, got no
Yeah.
wife, you don't have like a
Right.
ton of people depending on you. You know, so I'm
Yep.
just saying when you don't have people depending on you, it's a little different. Your time is freed up a little bit
Yep.
more.
Exactly.
So you get 24 hours in a day. How do you choose to use those 24 hours, right? So
Yep.
he constantly goes to temp agencies to get hired, and I kept telling him stop going to the temp agencies, go to a real job. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever, he's doing the temp agencies. And I told him like get 2 jobs, man. Like
Right.
I worked 2 jobs multiple times in my life.
Yeah, same, man. Two 40-hour shifts at a point
Yeah,
in time, man. Get off one
it's
and go to the other and keep going, man. Yep.
yeah. You want things in life. Sometimes you gotta work, and the excuse is like, here's this excuse, man. I don't want to work too hard because when I get older, I don't want to have all these wrinkles all over my face.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, man,
That's
that's
wild.
what it is. So you gonna get on me and my brothers, your uncles about helping you get a car or do this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go out and get it yourself because of what you just told me right there.
Right.
And it's not just him. At first I thought it was just
Mm-hmm.
like my nephew's so lazy, man. Like
Right.
it seems
Right.
like this generation, like, and I don't know where it came from. I'm not, gonna pinpoint it or anything like that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of one of those things where it's like you have to look, man. Life ain't fair. Look, I could have
Right.
complained about everything that happened to me in life. I could have made
Right.
excuses, and whatever the case is. Hey, some people just got to work harder than others.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
what it is. This is
Yep.
not a level playing field. You're in America. It ain't a level
Right.
playing field. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
You got an opportunity. I would rather live here with my opportunity than in some of these other countries. I see what's going on right now. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
man.
fair.
Right.
Yeah, people have a clear advantage over me, whether you want to say it's
Yep.
racially charged or maybe they have more financial stability than I do.
Mm-hmm.
They could
Right.
go into institutions and whatever the case is. It's not fair, but I have a chance,
Right.
and I would rather take that chance and do everything I can to work with what I got. And
Exactly.
I don't know where it is.
No.
Some people
No.
don't
No.
see it
No.
that way.
You're right. And I said this before, man. I might get it wrong, the exact verbiage, but I heard somewhere they're saying hard times create easy times. Easy times create comfort.
Yeah,
Comfort creates hard times. You know what I mean? So
right.
it's a level, man. And it's I mean, I have nephews the same way, same age, 25, 26, the same mindset. They think working at McDonald's is beneath them, so they
Right.
refuse to go to work for McDonald's, but then they're sitting down and not making any money at all whatsoever. So they're not making
Like,
any progress at all.
look, I understand you might not want to work there. No one's saying to work there forever, but you have to have a goal. If this is what's in front of you right now and you can maximize it,
Yeah.
do that.
Right.
And then
Yep.
as you're saving up money and you're doing that, you could apply, learn something, and go to
Right.
something else in life. Like it's just a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't started anywhere. You got to start somewhere.
Somewhere.
Everyone has to start down here somewhere before you work. I didn't just apply to become a professional executive recruiter to make the
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
It
Right.
didn't just work that way. I had to
You're right.
work my way up. I started at KFC. I became assistant manager. I got
Right.
hired at Dish Network when I was like 19 years old, taking telephone
Mm-hmm.
calls.
Right.
I promoted into a trainer because I showed I was good. There's steps, there's layers to this. You
Yep.
move your way up,
Oh yeah.
and to think that you
Yep.
could just to think that you could just walk into like a high paying job, 6-figure job, or whatever the case is like that, you're sadly mistaken if you think that's how things are going to
Yeah.
work out. It just doesn't work out that way. You got to work up to it. You got to build a network of people around you as well too that
Yep.
could vouch for you as well, because that goes a long way. There's a lot in
Exactly.
front of it. However, even if you don't have a lot of that, just lose some sleep, bro. Work 2 jobs. If
Yep.
you work 2 jobs, you could really compensate for a lot. You could learn a trade or whatever the case is. So,
Right.
I'm not saying everyone out here could go ahead and become a millionaire. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
case there. But if you have some realistic goals, like I want to have my own apartment and I want to have my own car, yeah,
Yep.
I mean, those are realistic goals that you could accomplish.
Right.
Especially if you don't have
Right.
any dependents or anything like that, it becomes even more realistic to accomplish because you have nothing but time and opportunity in front of you to take advantage of that. So, but like you said,
Exactly.
the reason why most people don't do it is because you have to take action. Taking action
Right.
is some of the hardest things to do. A lot of times we like to talk about things and we live in our mind like it would be cool, but what
Mm-hmm.
prevents us from doing it is taking action. I want to lose weight, but man, I don't feel like running or eating healthy or lifting weights. Okay.
Right.
I
Right.
want to get back to school, but man, I don't feel like reading or learning. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the hardest part is whatever it is to motivate you to take that action. And a lot of times you have to have a why. Like, what's your why
Yep.
behind it? What's your
Yep.
reasoning behind what you're doing? I got a few of them. My family, yeah, that's part of it. I want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
I set a good example for my wife, my daughters, and everything like that. But another part of it is like going back to what I told you earlier.
Yeah.
I've been rock bottom. I know what it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to to not just be hungry, but to be starving. I know what it's like to
Yep.
sleep outside, and that wasn't anything due to my own actions. It was because I was a child and I lived in it. But when you feel that, it's one thing explaining something to somebody to say, "Hey, man, there's starving kids in the world." Like
Mm-hmm.
as a kid, you're like, okay, you could kind of say, "Man, that sucks that kids are starving," but
Right.
till you feel
Different than
that,
being that. Right. I got
yeah,
you. Yeah. Yeah.
till you feel that, you really understand when you feel something like that. So yeah, I felt a lot of those things, and maybe that's why I would say I would never trade in or change anything that happened to me because I do understand how hard life can be at times, and
Yep.
that motivates me to get out of bed, to put them shoes on, to drive 60
Right.
miles to Denver to go to work and 60 miles back home. I did that for 3 years, 120
Yeah.
mile round trip.
Yeah.
Feel bad. Lawrence,
Yep.
man, you crazy, man. I don't know how you go through traffic or do all that, but hey, man, I'm just grateful I got a
Nah.
job to go to that pays me
Yes,
for what I
sir.
do to come back like this. So I'll do it every day,
There you
if I
go.
had to. 'Cause
Yep.
trust me,
Yep.
if this is the worst life is going to be for me, thank you God. Like
Right. Yeah. I
I'll
feel
take
that,
this.
man.
So
That
you know,
that's crazy. So it reminded me back when so when I was I was working jobs through my 20s. I don't remember my 20s as much. I do know that I had some kids, my wife and all that, but everything it was all grind mode. I was off the grid. I wasn't on social media or nothing.
right?
But I was just working, but not going anywhere. I was just grinding out. Now,
Mhm.
was I good at my jobs? I sure was, man. I would go up. I was a assistant manager at Blockbuster,
Yeah,
just working every day because I had that mindset of just okay, as long as I do this, I'll be okay. And then I worked. I got the job at DirecTV, and I was working 40 hours at DirecTV and 40 hours at Blockbuster, man, at least for about 3 or 4 months.
yeah,
But even at that time, man, I was still working, not going anywhere. And it wasn't until I got into AQ, um, I was like, man, I'm still not making, I mean, after working 2 40-hour jobs and then cutting that down, already cutting
yeah,
my finances lower, we still didn't have money to maintain, man. And
yeah,
it was my wife and I, and we were squatting at that time in this house, man. So we were squatting for a while, for at least 5 months, man, 5 or 6 months. And that's when I actually had the mindset, man, I gotta get back, and move up. So that's when I started, networking and everything. I think you remember around that time I started putting
yeah,
myself out there because when I first started, I was just laid back. I was in the background. I wouldn't, I wasn't out there at all, man. But once I started doing that, that's when I started noticing the changes. But the thing that caught me, man, was corporate world. I grew up in Park Hill,
yeah,
and I'm like, okay, y'all dress however I want to, and then I'm trying to network, and everybody's like, man, well, you got to dress up. No, I don't want to dress up, man. That dressing up, that's
yeah,
man, I ain't gonna do that. And then I would always get turned down for things like, okay, all right, I'll start dressing up, but I'll dress up, but then I'll leave my shirt untucked, And they're
yeah,
like, man, you gotta tuck in your shirt, man. I'm like, man.
yeah,
All right. And the time that I tucked in my shirt and I just started, just playing it right is when things started happening, man. So I started putting myself out there. Then I made changes. I dressed for the part. I spoke the part, and that's when I started seeing the difference. And that's the thing, man. Some of these kids, some of these people, they're just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. That's not me. There's nothing wrong with, dressing the part, man. You don't have to go in there with. There's this kid, I know you know who I'm talking about. He used to work at DirecTV, but he would dress up, but then he'll have a baseball cap and some tennis shoes, and some dress clothes, and that was after I made the shift. And I would tell him, like, hey, man, you gotta take the hat off, wear some dress shoes, man. Nah, I'm not gonna do that, man. But that's kind of how the mindset is with kids, man. Is I'm not gonna sacrifice in their mindset who I am, and it's not necessarily who you are. You're stuck in a bubble, that you are not willing to branch out of in order for you to grow.
Right.
And if until you break out of that bubble, man, you're not going to see yourself progress. And I had to learn that, man. I mean, it came from squatting in a house, not having any money to do anything. And once I started, and not for materialistic things, but my first promotion, boom. Okay, now we can buy a new car versus always paying to get my old car fixed all the time.
Right.
Now we can get this apartment in this place that where we would rather be, rather than this 10-story project, to where somebody just got stabbed in the elevator and I got to catch the elevator all the way up, or I got to walk up 12 flights because, so that's the difference between, are you willing to put in that work, like you're saying, to get to where you want to be? And if you are, yes. Now, is it always guaranteed? No, but that's the difference, because the guarantee of not trying is losing. Exactly. You're always going to lose if you don't try, but you have that chance to progress, man, if you keep going.
No, that makes perfect sense right there, man. And like you said, it's a couple of things you touched on. I'll reply back to, but like dressing for the part is a big part of it. Right. And it sounds like, why do I, like you said, why do I got to tuck my shirt in? Why do I have to do something like that? That's not me. It's not really about that. The thing is, what you're really doing it for, is to let the people know who make those decisions, like, this is a safe bet right here. This is somebody I can trust. This is somebody I can rely on. Their work ethic matches. It's the whole presentation. It's the whole it's building your own personal brand right there. That's what it is. Yep. Especially in the corporate world. That's a big part of it right there. So it's kind of like you said, it's when I first started at DirecTV, I was a trainer at Dish when I left and I came to Direct. And just like you, in a way, I kind of wanted to just chill in the background, until I made that decision when I said, you know what? Now I'm going to move up. Like I'm going to move up. So what did I start doing? Same thing. I started dressing up, tucking the shirt in, doing everything like that, networking, letting people know my goals. So I'm making it verbal. I'm making it out there so people are well aware of what I want to do. You could go. Sorry about that.
Oh, you good. You're good.
Yeah, and then just kind of being verbal about it right there, because, like I said, it takes more than, you need to let people know what you want to do in life. It's more than just one person making these decisions. So if I know there's something I want to do in life, I need to put it out in the universe and let others know that, hey, this guy Lawrence, this is what he wants to do. So therefore, you get other people speaking about you. Your name speaks louder in the room than you do when you're in the room. So if I have other people speaking my name in that room, I know I have a chance of making something out there. And that's what I need, the point that I need to get across. So when I decided to say, hey, this is what I want to do, I started, the assistant's queue was my ticket as well. I started sitting over there like I was on the team. I would volunteer to help out whenever they needed coverage. So when it came time to promote, I already knew, like, I was that person they want to put in the position. And that's what happened. And then within 10 months, I became the supervisor of that team, right? Same concept. I just tried to make sure that I let people know what I want to do in life, how I could help people as well, too. And, as history shows, it moved up that way and then, kind of segue really to where I'm at right now in life. But just making sure that you mitigate risk in other people's mind. That's a big part. We all are taking risk at some point, especially when you're hiring somebody you don't know. So you can only go off of the things you see and hear. That's all you can go off of. So that's what I'm going to use.
Right.
That's just the human nature behind it right there. Even when I first got my townhome, when my wife was pregnant and I had my first child, the one that just came down here to interrupt me 10 years ago, I remember I wanted to get this townhome. So, we wanted to rent out this townhome. My credit score was not good. And I knew that. It's not like I was oblivious to it. It was like 480. It was something. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad back then, right?
Yep.
So I was like, all right, Lawrence. So same thing. I grinded, saved up. I think I had like $10,000 saved up or something like that. We lived at her parents' house. So we were, like I said, it takes a lot of people. So they let us live there for free for like 6 months, and me and her saved up all of our money. And when I went to go meet with it was like an open house. I went to go meet with the landlord, and I dressed up like it was a job interview. I'm talking about like pants iron, button up. Went to my brother, got a haircut. Back then I didn't have all of this, but it was all nice, clean cut. You would think I was going to church or something. Like it was like, and it was on like a Saturday or something like that. And everybody else who showed up, flip flops, shorts, whatever. Even though I didn't have the credit score in mind, I presented myself as someone who was going to take care of her property. Like she felt comfortable. Like, I don't think this guy is going to come in my house and destroy everything. So that already looked good. The second thing that looked good is I came with first month, second month, and a deposit. So I had $3,000 cash back then. It was cheap.
There you go.
It was $1,000 a month back then, right? Nowadays that's like 1 month. But I came with 3 months. Deposit, first, second month. So I came with, I was like, I got $3,000 cash. My wife's pregnant. This is where I work at. I know my credit score is not the best, but I will take care of this. Dude, she let me. She picked me. And there's so many people she could have went. Probably had way better credit scores, all that kind of stuff. But I was able to sell myself, and she trusted me. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
This will probably be a safe bet, so we'll go with this guy right here. And I needed that in my life. I needed that place. It was perfect. Yeah, nice. Both my kids were there, my first two. We lived there for like 4 years. And it helped me save money to get the house I bought now. It was at a great location. It was like about 10 minutes from DirecTV. It was a really good spot. So that I look back on that. I was like, man, that really helped us out right there. Because if we didn't get that, it would have been tough. Dude, it was nice, man. It was a 1 bedroom. It was a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and I had a 1 car attached garage. Right.
Okay.
An extended one that you could use for like storage and stuff, and it had 2 parking spots.
Nice.
It was nice.
Oh,
I don't know.
Man, okay.
Let me explain, man. It's been a while since I lived in the war. It was over there off of I want to say God, man, what is wrong with me right now? Yo, when you move for that far, things change.
Yeah.
It was I want to say Buckley.
Okay.
And Hampton, Buckley and Hampton. The King Soopers?
Okay.
There's a 7-Eleven before Buckley and Hampton. There's a 7-Eleven right there in a park. I lived in those townhomes.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. There used to be Albertsons back there. Is that around the spot you're talking about?
Hampton and Buckley. So it's Hampton and Buckley. There's like a 7-Eleven on the corner right there, and there's those townhomes that call like Sunburst or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, man.
It had a park, real dope.
Okay.
I was like, man, it'd be perfect, and it was, and it worked out.
Nice.
But same thing, like we're saying, is how you present yourself and how you carry yourself goes a long way. So yeah, you got to do that sometimes. Sometimes you got to tuck the shirt in. You got to let people know, and you got to be okay with being told no sometimes. That's another thing. Don't feel like just because you did everything the right way, things are going to go your way. It's like that. It doesn't work. It's about being consistent and playing the odds. You play the odds. You show up your best self as much as you possibly can. Normally, things tend to go in favor. For every promotion I got that gave me more money, that was great. I probably got told no like 10, 15 times.
Yep.
That happened.
Same with me, man. Every time I went for a promotion, they would tell me no. They give me feedback, and while in my mind, I'm like, oh man, you dirty. Just me presenting. Okay, no problem. I didn't do this right. No problem. I'll go back and do that. But then they also check on it. Are you implementing that feedback as well? And without even reapplying for the same position about 3 times, after 3 times of being denied for different roles, each
Yeah.
role I got the position because of how I implemented the feedback, without reapplying. So it
Right.
is, man. I mean, they check for that as well, and you got to put yourself in their shoes as well. What type of bet are you willing to put on a certain person? And you have
Right.
to be realistic. You can't be like, well, I would take a risk for myself if I was to do this, but really, will you really though?
Yeah.
What are the circumstances, and are you willing to deal with the repercussions of risking something on somebody who doesn't even present themselves like they're going to take care of business as well? So all those things you have to think about, when you're making these moves, especially in the corporate world, or even if you start your own business. Same thing, man. When you go to apply for a business loan and you don't have
Yeah.
a business plan, what do you think they're going to tell you? They're
Yeah.
going to tell you
Exactly.
no. Like, you don't even know what you're going to do, because
Yeah.
an important thing in a business plan at the end, people think the most important part of a business plan is is the business going to be, or how they're going to repay their loan. That's not the most important. The most important part is, what is your exit strategy out of your
Yeah.
business if you are not lucrative as you need to be. They want to know exactly from A to Z, how is your business going to be structured. And without that plan, people don't want to take that risk, man. So those
No,
are
it makes
very
perfect sense with there. It's all about, like we were saying, that like risk versus reward, for the
important.
most part. So when you're looking to promote, like you said, you're working the 2 jobs and you realize, I need to make more money, so I need to promote, which is great. A lot of us, first of all, we got to have some damn work ethic. First of all, if you're not even willing to
Yep.
work and have the work ethic, don't even
Yep.
worry about promoting at
Might as
that
well
point,
forget
man.
it.
Just get a job at this point.
Yep.
I just need you to just do
Right.
something. But once you get to the point where you're like, you're
Yeah.
motivated enough to work and you're decent at it, okay, let's think about how can we capitalize? How can we, if I'm going to show up here 40, 50 hours a week, what can I do to get the most out of this as much as I can? And
Right.
then, like we just talked about right now, those are the steps you would normally take. You dress for the job, you
Yep.
network, you try to shadow, learn more about the job as much as possible. A lot of
Sir.
times we apply for jobs when they post, but you should be going for it now. You should be building a network. You should be building relationships with the people who make those decisions, learning the job
Makes
before it
sense.
even goes live. So when it
Yep.
goes live, you're already somebody they're thinking about at that point right
Yep.
there.
Yep.
And another thing is, and you own your house, I own my house as well too. And that's another shit. Another thing I think it's important is
Yep.
ownership is an important thing. If you go own something that has some equity, if you go own some land or whatever the case like that, it's very important. And that's something that my father did install on me when he bought that
Mm-hmm.
house. He was telling me it's important to own something. And I took that to heart,
Yep.
and I wish I would have bought sooner. I think I was 30 when I bought my house. Would have been
Mm-hmm.
cooler if I was able to figure that out earlier. Maybe it was a
Right.
good thing
Right.
because
Of course.
that was a financial crisis. So maybe I avoided something
Yeah.
in
Right.
2008. I didn't get mine until 2017 ish.
Oh, okay.
But
Yep.
at the same time, though, yeah, a lot of times because we feel like, oh, I used to think like, how do people afford all these expensive things?
Right.
Well,
Right.
the thing is, good credit. Like,
Yep.
yeah, you make decent money, you have decent credit, things are cheaper for you in life.
Oh yeah.
We go on vacation. I don't save up $4,000 and go on vacation. We have a United account, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Right.
pay it on the United, and you could pay like $400 a month. I could afford that, me and my wife.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Before you know, over the year, we paid for that vacation. Or you could say,
Yeah.
there's
Exactly.
ways you can go about things to get things accomplished.
Yep.
So having good credit really helps that. I don't
Helps out.
recommend abusing that part because that could get bad if you abuse your credit and
Mm-hmm.
start living a lifestyle that you're not able to afford. So there is a
Exactly. You have
fine
to be
line
smart about it.
between that, but
Yep.
you can be smart about it and then get certain things in life and still uh be able to accomplish certain goals that you have set forth. Where before
Yep.
in the past, growing up, I would think a lot of that stuff was impossible. Like, how do people
Mm-hmm.
do that? Well,
Yep.
you learn over time how that's done.
Right, right. That reminds me, man, when I was younger, my dad had a hot dog cart. So we used to go to different events and sell hot dogs and all that. And that's where I got a lot of my entrepreneur entrepreneurship mindset, but during that time I used to hate it. Oh man, I gotta go out there. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go out there with my pops, we're gonna do this. And I was good at it. But we did this one event at Kobe homes. I think that's what they were called back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But new builds, nice houses. So we're out here selling hot dogs to all these people that I feel were like rich, and I was, oh man. And I told my dad, I used to walk through those houses when I was young, and just nice, man, and in my mind I was like, man, I could never imagine having something like this. And I asked my dad, I was like, you think I forgot how I structured the question, but basically he told me that you just have to grind out, and put your mind to it. So thinking back when I was looking into those homes and then actually having a home built as well, in the same process from years later, man, that struck a chord with me because back in the day, like you were saying, I couldn't imagine buying a new build, next to even owning a home, so a lot of that stuff really sticks to you and people don't realize it. Like I said, I didn't like it, but just having that experience alone put me in that position to know, just to work at it, man, and get it. So
no, you have a good point there, and I think what happens is sometimes we get caught up in I don't want to say caught up, but our structure, our environment, the way we grow up. Sometimes it seems like the American dream, if you will, is unachievable. Sometimes that's for other people, and that's for that ain't for people that look like me, people that look like you. That ain't for us,
right.
And I feel bad, about that as well too. So I try to help people out as I go along in life. When they like, oh, Lawrence, that's a nice house you get. How you get it? I'm like, yeah, let me explain to you what I did, because you could do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like trust me, you could definitely do the same thing. It starts off by, do you have credit? Yes or no. If the answer is no, not a big deal. Start a Capital One credit card with $300.
Exactly.
If you do have credit, okay, if it's bad, fix it. Just pay your bills off. Pay the bills off. The credit score will go up, and then we start there. We start at fixing our credit. A lot of people think like they gotta make all this extra money to buy a house, and that's not really the case at all. What you need to have is you have to have good credit. And then once you have good credit, then we could talk about how you would get that down payment or financial assistance. An example, when I bought my house was purchased. I used my 401k money. So at DirecTV, I had a 401k. I invested in that 401k from day one, and I never touched it. Right? It takes a little bit of discipline to do this.
Oh yeah, it does.
Don't touch your 401k.
Right. Oh man, exactly. You're right.
Let it sit, because the company's going to help you with it. So that's what I did. I left 401k DirecTV and I went to the current company I work at now. And at that point, I had an option what I would do with that money. So part of it, I was like, I know eventually I want to buy a house. So I was able to take like $20,000 and I put it in like a Roth IRA. Okay. Eventually, a year later, I bought my house. I took that $20,000 and I was able to I paid a little bit of tax when I took it out. And the rest, I put $13,000 down as a down payment for 3% on the conventional loan for the house I live in now. Awesome. And the thing is, I didn't even notice that money. It damn near seemed free because I've been putting it to the side without paying attention to it. I never knew that was going to be my down payment on a house. 5 years later, I got a new job. I have another kid. Things are going pretty decent. We're talking about buying a house. And how do I get this down payment? Oh, shit. What about that money that I just have right there? There it is. There goes your down payment. And good thing we've got the credit fixed on that part. And then before you know it, buying a house all of a sudden became a thing. So it was one of those things where it's like, fix the credit score and do some sort of savings. It's okay to save money. You don't have to spend everything. Like one of the things, honestly, like, we talk about advice. I give my younger self. Let me give some advice to some people now. Like, don't buy things that are, what's the best way I can say this without sounding like an old man or something? That's where I'm trying to phrase myself. Don't invest in something that's not really going to invest back in you. It's probably the best way I can say it. So when I see purchases of like, I got these rims on my car, and rims cost thousands of dollars. I got these gold chains right here. I got this watch right here that costs like this. To me, it's the worst purchase. I mean, the worst purchase you could ever make. Like The rims? Are you serious? Your car already came with some rims and some tires. Ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Jewelry? I'm not trying to hate on jewelry or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, what, like, if you don't have it already, if you're gonna buy that, I hope you already have it.
Yeah,
if you have it already, you got the things you want in life and things are good, and you do that. Hey, I'm not hating. That's cool. But if you're gonna buy that and then talk about how you don't have other things, your mindset needs to change. At this watch right here.
Yep.
Casio.
There you go.
$16. Right.
There you go.
$16, bro. Yep. Does everything. Yep. Tells times. It got an alarm. It got a stopwatch on this thing right here. Yep. $16. I got like 3 of these boys. Balling.
There you go.
I got a blue one and a black one too.
Right.
You know you don't have to like get so. And I'm not saying that you could have some nice things here. I don't want to make it sound like, what's he talking about? Things like that. I'm just saying if you don't have it already and you want it, don't invest in those things that aren't really going to invest back in you like that. Invest in your education if you will, and invest more into something that's going to come back to you, like invest in paying off your credit card. That's what you need to work. Paying off your credits and stuff like that, so your credit score can increase, because that's going to inevitably save you money over your lifetime at this point. So you've really got to focus on what we're spending our money on. Like the shoes, the sneakers that cost like $200, and I see people buying that, and I'm like, man, and I get it. It's like our culture in a way. It is.
Yep. Exactly.
Our culture. We put it out there. It's like we got to floss and do all this type of stuff, and to a degree, that's fine. But don't do that and complain about the other thing. That's where I have a problem. If you're gonna do that, but you're cool paying high rent or cool living at your baby mama's house, and that's just you, okay, that's you. I'm not gonna knock your life. That's what you want to do, but don't buy those things and then tell me like, oh man, I'm just trying to get this. I'm trying to get some. Then I'm like, are you really trying? Like, are you trying? You just want it. There's a difference between like I want to work towards it and I want something, or I'm trying. I don't really see you trying. It seems like you trying to get away from that. That's what it seems like.
Exactly. And I think a lot of it is coming from, growing up, just like you were saying, being without, and then you tend to overindulge when you do have it, and that's not just a small percentage of people think otherwise. Is okay, I didn't have it before. I don't want to go back to not having it again, so I'm going to make sure that I set myself up right for the future. But a lot of people are like, man, I was starving growing up, so I'm going to eat as much as I can, all the time. And that, overindulgence is not good for anybody at all. But understanding a want versus a need is extremely important. And my analogy is understanding what that feels like, right? Like I went on a fast some months ago I was trying to do 14 days, but I only did a week. So I went on a juice fast.
Way more than I could ever do.
Yeah, man. And it was just vegetables and fruits. So I would drink just that for 7 days straight. No meat, no nothing, man. Just that straight up. And that taught me the difference between starving and craving. So I would drink some juice and I'm full, but I still feel like I need to eat some pizza or cheeseburger, some chicken. But that was just my craving, man. It wasn't me being hungry, and that's the same concept of, do you really need to buy this gold chain? Because what are you going to do with it? You're just going to floss with it because you felt like when you were younger, somebody else was flossing, so I got to floss and stun on them too. You got to get away from that mindset. So if I buy this, is this really going to help me, or is this a reward for me working hard for 2 years straight, and I'm rewarding myself because, I discipline myself enough, so those
two totally different things,
is what really needs to change in the culture. Yeah.
Two totally different things right there, right? Is this like a reward? Is this something where it's like that? Or is this like when you just buying a gold chain on a Tuesday just to do it? That's where I'm like, all right, what is it? What are we really doing here? So, and like I said, it's only if you have other goals in mind. Like if you have other goals to save and do this, and that's where it starts getting messy at that point right there. Like that's where I wish we could have better financial advice and people could come together a little bit more, because I feel like there's a lack of that in our community. To be honest, for the most part, there's a big lack of that part right there. A lot of times we think things are unachievable. They're definitely achievable. You just have to have a blueprint to how to get there. You know, that's the biggest part right there. So yeah, that's where it's at, man. And hopefully, like, I try to pass that knowledge on to others. That's something I do my best to try to do. You know, if someone reaches out, I won't give names, but there's like about 3-4 people I kind of helped then give them a structure as far as what to do to purchase a house. And
That's
we were able to do it. They were real thankful for it as well too. And you know, if you could, I guess part of it is just making sure you pass it and pay it forward to other people. Let them know, like, hey, we're in this. We could do this too. You know, like it's something we can do. Something you can leave down for your kids. Is what we. That's how you create that generational wealth and stuff like that. It has to start somewhere. So, you know, hopefully it starts with me from my family. Because you know, nothing really came down to me except the knowledge I did get from my father while he was here. So therefore, I can give more than just knowledge to my kids. I can give knowledge and here's this property. Hopefully, a few years from now, I could get another property so they can have some ownership and they can have that as well too.
Yes, sir. Woo. Deep, man. So yeah, man. So you carried us through your childhood, you know, through some struggles, through some important, impactful situations, and dropped a lot of good nuggets, some knowledges, some bars, you know, for everybody to absorb as well through the episode. And I think you touched base on my question as well about what you would tell your younger self. Would there be anything else you would tell yourself, or do you have any final words for the audience?
Tell my younger self, man, that's a tough one, man. I'll probably say, yo, man, and make sure you invest into some Google stock. Google comes out.
There you go, right now.
Any
That's
money
real.
you got, and put it all. Forget Internet Explorer. Forget what was the other one? Netscape. Don't worry about Netscape Navigator or Yahoo. No. Put everything. Google.
Right.
Apple stocks, stuff like that. You know, right? But Amazon. Right?
Amazon, You know,
I guess,
No, you go ahead, man.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, as far as investing goes, you know, I didn't know nothing about that until Rich B. You remember Rich B from DirecTV?
Yes.
He set me aside, man, and gave me an hour of free knowledge of stocks, man. Free knowledge, you know, and show me how to look at it, how to look at the potential future impact, look at the history, and where to align my 401k, and that just blew my mind, man. And I was 35, 36 at that time, you know. So it was like, wow, man, and that just changed my whole perspective on life, straight up, because we don't learn that growing up at all.
That's another thing we didn't talk about on this, but that's another thing right there. The stock market, that's a big one. Like, there's such thing as we talk about calculated risk. If you want to gamble your money, I like doing a little sports gambling here myself and there, but that's gambling. The smart gambling is going into the stock market and really understanding what you're looking at as far as what trends, because that's where you're going to gain a lot of long-term type wealth in the stock market right there. But no, that's a good point. It's good to have that knowledge. I have a little bit of that knowledge, not where I would want to be. My brother's quite knowledgeable. He's doing good in the stocks. Something that I have a few myself. Boy, I'm just so happy I didn't go all in on crypto, though. I'll tell you that. I did not do that.
Man, you know, so I invested in Dogecoin when it was like pennies. And I just put my money. I just put money into it because I was looking for penny stocks at that time for crypto. And this was before. It was probably 2019. I was like, all right, let me just put some in here, and you know, it blew up. You know, during COVID lockdown, and I was like, man, I got some money here. This is when I started the nonprofit. But in order to get all my licensing and my 501c3, I needed to get a lawyer to help me with documentation. I didn't have the money at that time. So, man, that thing blew up, and I was looking at, I was like, what? I took it out, and then I put it, paid some lawyers to help me establish the organization, man. And then after that, of course, things went the other way. But I was like, woo, I'm glad I took it out, man. But you're right, though. Yep. Well, I mean, that's the thing.
Man, that's smart, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, And that's the thing. You never know when to take out, right? So you always try to figure out what the best time is. But also the most important thing is that, and you said it right before I started talking about this, is you never invest what you're not willing to lose. You
Right.
know, you invest
Right.
what you are able to lose, without going into a financial distress. And that's the thing, is
Yeah.
that a lot of people, a lot of new people with investing, even with crypto, all in, all in, all in. No, man, you don't know. You don't go all in, man. You
You
got to
don't go
figure this
Ashley
thing out.
Larry with it, bro. You do not go Ashley Larry with the rent money.
Yeah,
You don't go Ashley
exactly, man.
with rent money in
Right?
stock. That's
A
not
lot of
what you
people,
want to
a
do,
lot of people
man.
are hurting right now, especially with the crypto stuff, man. So,
Oh
but
yeah,
yeah, you're right.
yeah. I took I think I lost like 300-400 in the crypto, but like I said, that was just something
Mm-hmm.
I threw in there to see what would happen, and ain't nothing
Right,
happened.
right.
So
Yeah, yeah,
that was L. But yeah, as far as advice, the only thing I would really probably tell my younger self
yeah.
is that you know you're on the right track. Just that vote of confidence. A vote of confidence really does go a long way. And for me
Right.
personally, I needed probably to become more confident in what I was doing, because a lot
Okay.
of times it was like, why am I working like this? Why am I living like this? And just to have someone tell me like, hey man, you're on the right track, keep it up. That would have went a long way. And probably I would say I would have liked to have finished school. I still can, but I'm in a position where financially I'm good. I'm about
Mm-hmm.
to go on my fourth kid. My wife is
Right.
finishing school, so I can't do it
Nice.
while she. I don't want to say I can't. It just makes it tougher for both of us too. So I'm taking the
Right.
back seat until she finishes, and then
Yes, sir.
I eventually will finish as well. But I think you know having that paperwork to go with what I already know. That's where it's at right
Yep.
there. So I would probably tell myself like, hey, it's okay to finish school, because in my high school, my senior year, I only needed one credit to graduate. I
Oh,
was
that's
always
what's
one
up.
of those kids that I took honors algebra.
Yeah, yeah.
I was pretty smart. I didn't wasn't like a 4.0, because I was good though.
So,
I understood school. Things
yeah,
came pretty fairly. I don't want to say easy, but I didn't have to stress over it too much.
yeah,
And
yeah.
instead of applying myself more, I decided to just hang out more, things like that. When I probably could have taken it more serious and went to
Gotcha.
school, finished a degree.
Yep.
So probably like, yeah, just remind
Okay.
myself like, hey man, give myself some confidence. You're on the right track, but at the same time, it's okay to finish school, man. Like,
Right.
it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to go to CCA for 2 years and then
Yeah.
transfer to team.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with
Yep.
doing something like that, to have that paperwork. Because right now I do have a lot of knowledge in the professional
Mm-hmm.
industry as far as corporations and stuff. I don't really have the
Yep.
paperwork to match up for it, which means I do need to work harder. I do need to work harder than some people, and I have,
Yeah.
and it's worked for me thus far. But there's only
Mm-hmm.
so long that's going to work for me until
Gotcha.
I
Yep.
get something to
Yep.
match it, and I understand that concept. So I'm still working on that
Yes,
part.
sir. Cool. That's what's up, man. No, that's important. It is, especially getting that information out to a youngin'. 'Cause, when you're
Yeah,
young, man, yeah, stuff
yeah,
is tough.
yeah.
But no, I appreciate everything that you shared with us today. And as far as the audience goes, if you guys like what you heard, leave some comments, of your thoughts about everything that was discussed as well. You can catch us on YouTube, on the video streaming, but you can also catch us on the audio streaming platforms like Spotify and all your other favorite options that you use. But once again, this is Legacy United and your boy Billy Wayne with Lawrence signing out for today. You guys have a good one.
Thank you.